Hi Bulldogs! In this video we are going to be covering the circulatory system and respiratory system. You will of course want to take notes, so be sure you either have the note page open and are typing in the notes, or of course you can have them printed out and handwriting the notes. You may use the notes while you take the quiz for these two systems, so be sure that you have the note pages filled out while you're watching this video. Another reminder that instead of watching the videos for this unit, you may read the section of the textbook instead. So the section in the textbook for the circulatory system and respiratory system is Unit 7, Lesson 3. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the circulatory system. So the circulatory system is also called the cardiovascular system. So sometimes you'll hear it referred to as that. The circulatory system is made up of the heart, blood vessels, and blood. The blood vessels have the arteries, veins, and capillaries. And I want to talk about those for just a second here. And you may want to take a note about the arteries, veins, and capillaries, specifically the arteries and capillaries, because there's a little way to remember which ones are which. So the arteries, you can always remember which ones are arteries because they are flowing away from the heart. So the heart is this main organ here in the center of the chest, and the arteries are flowing away from the heart, and then veins are going to be bringing the blood back toward the heart. So you can kind of think of it as little arrows. Actually, if I get a color here, we can draw little, I think of it as little V's, right? Little V's or arrows going back toward the heart. So those would be veins bringing it back toward the heart, and that would be deoxygenated blood. And then arteries are going away from the heart. Arteries away. So there's an A, starts with, arteries start with A, and that reminds me that arteries are going away from the heart. There we go, arteries away from the heart. So the blood that's going away from the heart has been oxygenated, meaning that it has oxygen from the lungs. So that blood has picked up oxygen from the lungs, and it is carrying that oxygen throughout the entire body, which is really important. Every single cell in your body needs that oxygen in order to carry out cellular respiration, which we're going to be talking about later on in this video. Then arteries and veins are connected through tiny blood vessels called capillaries. They are very small. They're about only 1 or 2 cells thick. So tiny little blood vessels called capillaries connect those arteries and veins, and that is your inner workings of blood vessels. Now, here is one misconception that a lot of students have, because there are so many diagrams that show red and blue blood vessels in the body. There's a lot of misconceptions out there that deoxygenated blood or veins, right, the blood coming back to your heart that's already been deoxygenated, that oxygen has been dropped off to the cells and it's coming back to the heart, is blue, that your blood is blue if it doesn't have any oxygen in it. And that is not true. Your blood is not blue. It might be a slightly different color of red, right? It might be a deeper color red or a brighter color red if it has oxygen or doesn't have oxygen, but your blood is not blue. And if it looks blue through your skin, right, if your veins look blue through your skin, that's just the way that the light is hitting your skin, or the way you see it through your skin. So your blood is not actually blue if it's deoxygenated. It's just the way that we show it in diagrams and in models. And so a common misconception, though, that students have. Blood is never actually blue. It is maybe different shades of red. Okay, so the circulatory system, of course, maintains homeostasis. Otherwise, humans would not live if we were not in a nice, healthy balance. So 3 ways that we are maintaining homeostasis. Mainly delivering things. Your circulatory system is a huge just transportation system throughout your entire body. You can think of all the blood vessels as a nice roadway system, delivering things all over the place. One thing that they're delivering, chemical messengers. So hormones and all of those things are transported in your blood. The second thing, huge one, oxygen, right? So we have blood being sent to the lungs straight from your heart. The first place it goes is to the lungs to go and pick up oxygen. And then it goes back to your heart and is pumped again to go to the rest of your body to deliver that oxygen. So that is super, super important. That oxygen is delivered to every single cell in your body. The third thing that the circulatory system carries around is glucose. So glucose from your digestive system, which we talked about in the other video this week, your digestive system breaks down food into small particles called nutrients, and those are go into your bloodstream as well. So again, those capillaries that are found in the small intestines pick up the nutrients, and that also travels in your blood and goes to every single cell. So now we have oxygen from our lungs, and we have glucose from the digestive system all traveling in the bloodstream to go to every single cell. So now we can perform cellular respiration in our cells in the mitochondria to produce energy. See how all of our units from science are like now working together? Oh, it's a beautiful process. There's actually one other thing that is traveling in our blood, and that is waste. So our cells need oxygen and glucose to perform cellular respiration, but our cells are also producing waste. So not only is our blood, carrying around the things that we need, those chemical messengers, oxygen, glucose, and white blood cells, it's also carrying around the, things fighting off pathogens, but it's also carrying around waste, right? Some of the waste material that our cells are producing, like carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is then taken from the cells and is brought back to the lungs and then exhaled from the lungs. And again, we're going to get to that a little bit more detail later in this video when we get to the respiratory system, but a little sneak peek here. This is an alveoli, which is an air sac in the lung, and here is a capillary, or one of the blood vessels passing along through, and a lot of exchanges are happening here. We have the oxygen molecule being dropped off into the bloodstream, and carbon dioxide and water molecules going into the alveoli to be exhaled. The circulatory system does even more to help us maintain homeostasis, and that is to regulate our body temperature. So it changes the amount of blood flow in the skin to help carry heat away or to prevent heat loss. So that is really important as warm-blooded mammals. We need to make sure that our body temperature is regulated. And of course, I already mentioned this, but our white blood cells are also found in our blood, obviously, and that is there to fight off microorganisms. So disease-causing microorganisms are, of course, attacked by our white blood cells. So circulatory system, very, very important. You can kind of see how it's working with multiple systems in our body. So circulatory system obviously working with the respiratory system with the exchange of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. It's also working with the digestive system when it's picking up that nutrients in the small intestines. It's working with our immune system. We haven't talked about the immune system yet, but with the white blood cells, it's working with the immune system. And it's working with the, hormones and everything. So it's working with several systems in the human body. All right, the main organ of the circulatory system is the heart, which is a hollow muscular organ that pumps blood to the body through the blood vessels. Of course, red blood cells take up oxygen in the lungs and deliver it to the cells throughout the body. We've already talked about that. We don't have to spend a ton of time talking about the heart or the anatomy of the heart, but it is super interesting, so I do want to point out a couple of things. And so if you look at this diagram here, the blood is going to enter from the top and the bottom here of the vena cava, and it's going to enter into the right side of the heart, which on this diagram looks on the left side of the heart. But what you have to do is take this diagram of the heart and take it like off of the screen, turn it around, and then put it on the inside of your chest. So even though it looks like it's on the left-hand side, you have to kind of take it off of the picture, turn it around, and then put it inside of your chest. So if you were to take this heart and turn it around, then the right-hand side would actually be on your, or what's on the left-hand side would actually be on the right-hand side. So the blood enters the heart on the right-hand side. It is deoxygenated blood. So a lot of times in the diagram, it shows up blue. Blood isn't actually blue. And it goes through the right atrium. The atriums are on the right, on the top half of the heart, and then goes down into the ventricles. Ventricles are on the bottom part, which are shaped like V's. That's how you can remember those are ventricles. And then from there, the blood goes up and to the pulmonary arteries, which send the blood to both lungs, right? So you have a right and left lung. So the blood goes to the right and left lung. That's where it goes to pick up the oxygen. We're going to get to that again in just a moment when we get to the respiratory system. Picks up that oxygen, comes back to the heart through the pulmonary veins. And this time we're going into the left side of the heart and out through the aorta. Now we're going to the aorta, which is an artery. That aorta is going to send that blood to the rest of the body, of course, to drop off that oxygen. All right, on to the respiratory. All right. The functions of the respiratory system. So breathing, of course, is the main and most important function of the respiratory system. That is the movement of the chest that brings air into the lungs, which is inhaling, and removes waste gas, which is, of course, is exhaling. So when you inhale, oxygen goes into the bloodstream and is transported to all cells of the body to maintain homeostasis. When you exhale, carbon dioxide and other waste gases are exhaled as a waste product, which is another way our body maintains homeostasis. That all is explained, but I think it's easier to understand it in picture form. So here again is another diagram showing the alveoli. So if we were to take a picture of your lungs and zoom in, you would see that your lungs have these little teeny tiny air sacs. They look like little grapes, right? They're very, very small, but they're little air sacs called alveoli, little tiny grapes. And those grapes are surrounded by capillaries. And remember, capillaries are very, very, very small blood vessels. They're only about 1 cell big. As you can see, these blood cells, these red blood cells, are only able to fit through about one red blood cell at a time can fit through. So as the red blood cells go through, they're dropping off carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide has, hitched a ride in the bloodstream, and it is now, jumping off and leaving the body, right? Because it is a waste, our body doesn't need it. And the air that has come in has oxygen, and now again, this is all happening through diffusion. We have a high concentration of oxygen inside the alveoli, the grape-like air sac, and we have diffusion happening, and it is going from high concentration to low concentration, so it's going to go diffuse across these membranes and into the blood. So the red blood cells are now what we consider oxygenated, and it's going to be carried in the bloodstream to every single cell in the body so that it can carry out cellular respiration. So now we have oxygen traveling in the bloodstream. So again, cellular respiration, all cells need oxygen and glucose, of course, from food for cellular respiration. Oxygen is transported to the cells through the bloodstream. When you exercise, respiratory and circulatory systems are working together. Your heart must beat faster. You must breathe faster to provide more oxygen for the muscles, cells, for cellular respiration. So when you are exercising, your muscle cells are working a lot. When your muscle cells are working a ton, they need energy. How are they going to get energy? Your mitochondria, right? Your mighty mitochondria in those muscle cells are like, holy cow, we need more energy in order to do all of this work. Where are they going to get energy from? Cellular respiration. Well, in order for cellular respiration to happen, you need more glucose, and you need oxygen. So your blood is going to need to pump faster. And so your heart has to beat faster in order to, for those cells to get more oxygen and for those cells to get more glucose. So your heart has to beat faster while you're exercising, and that's also why you breathe faster in order to get more oxygen into that blood. Pretty neat.